Calisthenics can obviously be so impressive. Some of the feats that you see online or people at the gym doing those crazy shit can be so impressive, and it can obviously look so incredibly difficult because for the most part, it actually probably is. Plunge push-ups, 90-degree push-ups, all these front lever stuff takes a long time to learn. However, there are variations that look very much the same, but you can learn very, very quickly, and you can almost literally learn it right now. And I wanna walk through skills that are gonna help you build strength, gonna help you build skill, but you can pick up literally instantly, and you can impress your friends and even impress yourself with some of the crazy shit that you can do. And I don't want you guys to see this as cheating or faking your strength. I think building these skills is actually gonna really set a strong foundation, skills that you wanna try and learn later on in your journey. So I still think while it is inherently faking your strength, it's definitely not the case exactly. It's still gonna be a really solid foundation and skill to learn at the start of your journey. I think everyone should go through this phase, and it's also incredibly motivating. So let's get into it. Bent arm planche variations are obviously actually incredibly difficult. To hold your strength up in this position or keeping nice straight hips, a rounded upper back takes, in some cases, years to build to, definitely at least months. And progressing those bent arm planches off to exercises like a 90-degree push-up takes even longer because obviously it requires a lot of balance and strength to get there. However, there are ways where you can cheat actually doing a 90-degree push-up or doing a bent arm planche. And I actually think learning this is incredibly smart because you see a lot of top athletes do all these planche push-up variations and all those things. Elbow lever. A lot of the time their elbows are tucking into their waist and they're pressing back up. So they're saving energy and they're using a bit of momentum to help them there. So I think learning an elbow lever, it is so impressive, and you can combine it with other skills, which we're gonna talk about now as well. So learning the elbow lever, by all means, you do not need parallettes. I'm just at the beach and it's gonna be a little bit more awkward doing it off the sand. So if you are doing it off your hands, just put your hands out to the side like this. But all you have to do is tuck your elbows into the middle of your waist. So you'll see here, you've got that hip bone, that prominent hip bone that you can feel. You're just going slightly on the inside there with both of your hands. And then lean forward and get into a frog stand. Eventually you might be able to get into a straddle elbow lever and then a full elbow lever. Just making sure your shoulders stay high. And when you're leaning forward into that elbow lever, your elbows cannot stay backwards. If they stay back, you're not gonna be able to get forward. You won't be able to lift. That's the biggest thing that everyone gets wrong. Your elbows have to shift forward to get into that elbow lever. So that's pretty much the main hack. And I think it's something that everyone gets wrong. It does take time to build the strength a little bit to get there. So continue with the frog stands and straddle levers. I promise you'll get it very, very quickly. If not today, if not in a week's time. So keep at it. So how can we evolve that and make it even cooler? So what you can do, if you obviously do have a handstand, what you can do is go from a handstand into an elbow lever, and it looks quite difficult, but it is so much easier than a 90-degree push-up. A quick hack is just to make it so you're a little bit closer in terms of your hand width. If you're a little bit closer in your hand width, it's gonna be very easy to just go straight into your hips. So start at the handstand a little bit closer and then come down into that elbow lever. It is pretty cool. And then you can also do the opposite. So going from an elbow lever and then leveraging a little bit of momentum to try get into a handstand. Obviously didn't get it there, but you can definitely do that. And one really fun trick that I think looks so difficult, but once you have an elbow lever, progressing into it, I promise, actually isn't really that hard. And this is a single arm elbow lever. I think I got it in maybe a week or so. Pick it up pretty quickly. At the start, it seems incredibly difficult, but I promise I've had multiple people work toward that one arm elbow lever, genuinely pick it up very, very quickly. Males, females, all demographics. So with that one arm elbow lever, you have to make sure that your hips aren't centered. So the opposite hip has to make sure it rises a little bit. So you have to get a little bit higher to balance the weight. If your hips are low, all what's gonna happen is you're just gonna drop there. So you have to rise that opposite hip and make sure your shoulders stay nice and high. How you progress to it is just keep your hands on the ground, so this opposite hand on the ground, and slowly start to lift off with your fingers. And eventually you can do it with one finger, and then over time you can start taking that finger off and eventually be able to hold it. Very fun skill to work toward. Start with a frog stand, go into an elbow lever straddle, then an elbow lever. If you're able to, experiment with some 90-degree stuff with that elbow lever, make it look a lot harder than what it actually is, and maybe even that one-arm elbow lever too. Another skill that is actually quite difficult to learn. Some people with a really strong base can pick up a tuck planche pretty quickly, but for a lot of you, honestly, it does take time. It's incredibly hard to have that straight arm strength and just hold yourself up. And then progress into those harder planche variations definitely takes time and a lot of consistent effort and programming. However, what you can build up pretty quick, and I think these two are excellent exercises to learn to build that wrist strength and that balance and control, are crow poses, which I'm sure you heard of, but also crane poses. So we're getting a little bit higher here. And honestly, both look pretty impressive, and especially when you can combine it with other things as well. To learn, firstly, the crow pose, what you want to make sure you're doing is you have your elbows bent over your wrist. So you can see there, see how they're bent? You're leaning forward while placing the inside of your knee on the outside of your elbow. So you can see that position there. And then from here, you want to lean forward and try find that balance with one leg off, and maybe find balance and see if that other leg can slowly come off. It might take a little bit of time to learn, but I'm sure a lot of you can pick it up, if not today, if not in a week's time. Just keep consistent with that. Once you have learned the crow pose, you can also learn the crane pose, but the only difference is your elbows are straight now, and you want to have your knees hit the top of your tricep. So where you've got the lateral head and the long head, you want to be in between that little part there, pretty much on the back middle of your upper arm. So straight elbows, hands forward, get into that crane pose and rest your knees, get one leg off, see if you can find balance with both knees. It is a lot easier than a tuck planche. It is a little bit harder than a crow pose, so just slowly work toward that and see how you go. So how can we make it a little bit more fun? You can do parallel variations if you want, do it off a couple of books to raise the platform, but you can also, if you have an okay handstand or pressing, you can also go from a crow pose and press into a handstand a little bit easier than doing handstand push-ups. And honestly, this skill does look pretty fucking cool. And you can use a lot of momentum to get yourself up. And it's the same thing with the crow pose. You can press through here and then press up into a handstand. Trial around with a lot of those. Obviously, you need to have a decent handstand first, but exercises like that, working toward that along your journey, still making sure you're building up those foundations, incredibly fun and awesome to look at. Another fun thing you can do, you don't actually need parallettes for this, but I'm just gonna use it for the sake of it. You can also combine some of the skills we just learned. So you can go from that crow pose into the crane pose, get back down, go into a frog stance, elbow lever straddle, full elbow lever. So there's things you can combine, throw around with that, super fun to learn, get some combinations going and still continue building that strength and control. So a human flag, obviously a very advanced exercise, can take months and certainly almost years to build toward that. But one regression that's gonna actually help you build toward that human flag, but is actually quite impressive to look at and something you can do at a gym, impress your friends, is a 45-degree flag. And you can get quite horizontal here, but all you need is a pull-up bar that has also some poles on the side of it. And from here, you can get into that 45-degree position. So super cool. And you're also building up that human flag variation, making sure you're obviously training both sides along with all these other skills. Super cool exercise that you can do, continue building strength, obviously do some crazy shit as well. If you're finding that hard and you still can't get there yet, a great regression is you learning the tucked variation. So holding yourself up with a tuck, trying to get more and more horizontal as you can. And then eventually over time, you'll be able to get into that straightened position. But I'm certain you guys will pick this up pretty quickly. So handstand push-ups, obviously quite a difficult exercise to get toward. As I said multiple times, things like this can take months, if not years for some of you. However, even the progressions like pike push-up variations, chest to wall, handstand push-ups in good form, while they're excellent exercises to build that strength, they can also take a bit of time. And something that you can implement into your programming now that is still building strength, while maybe not as specific, still definitely building strength, but also looks fucking sick as well. So what you can do is back to wall handstand push-ups, and we're also going quite wide with our grip as it's gonna shorten the range of motion and make it easier. So go quite wide, make sure that you're stable and you can confident of being upside down, put your leg on the wall, and then from here, elbows flare slightly, and then you get our forehead to touch the ground.
This is a whole lot easier than a chest to wall handstand push-up, while still looking probably just as hard as well.
One arm pull-ups. Obviously a very hard exercise. They look so cool. I think this is probably the one skill that I wanted to learn when I first started. I found it so impressive. Even banded variations are still incredibly difficult, and progressing through those does take time. Even archer pull-ups can be quite hard as well, and that's a great progression to work toward with that one arm pull-up. However, something that actually looks almost as impressive as one arm pull-up, maybe not there, but definitely almost, is a one arm assisted one arm pull-up. And I promise you, that is an exercise that is barely harder than an actual pull-up. And if you can already do a fair few pull-ups, I promise that one arm pull-up variation you can do instantly. And honestly, it looks sick. It genuinely looks like I'm actually doing one arm pull-ups for the most part. Awesome exercise. I definitely recommend giving that a go. And you're still building that strength and movement pattern specific to that one arm pull up. So win-win for sure. Front levers, we know, an advanced exercise. Back levers look just as impressive, but they still definitely take time to learn. A lot of you may get it pretty quickly, but an exercise that actually looks almost just as difficult is a single leg back lever. And I promise a lot of you can build this up very quickly. I'd firstly very much start with skinless cats, get stronger, build the mobility, and then eventually over time, see how you go extending that back leg out and achieving a nice straight line. You might even be able to do a shuttle back lever and maybe even a full back lever if you get the chance. Doing negatives is a great variation too. So I think that's an excellent skill to build strength, build good form, strengthen those shoulders especially, but still doing some crazy shit as well. Training calisthenics is all about having a little bit of fun while also building strength, building aesthetics, and just getting healthy and strong. Such a great way to train. And if you need help with it, I think getting guidance is the most important thing you can do. I've got programs and community support, obviously in the link in my bio. Suss that community, the best thing you'll ever do. All the members are absolutely killing it. Otherwise, I hope you enjoy the video. I hope you get a lot out of this. Continue smashing your strength. Like, subscribe, follow me on Instagram, all the rest of it. Let's go.